Uh, Please tell your story about the flower giving in May 1st in 1938.
Well, we had to go to a big rally to the stadium. I think we got out about 10 o'clock, and then they had buses. No, we didn't have buses. We had to take the subway. Yeah, was elevated, and then was a subway, and then we had to walk. Everything walked, and then we went to the Olympic Stadium, with God only knows how many thousand, and you got seated, and that was it. And then they called you out, and that's what you had to do. You got pushed, you were so overwhelmed, you didn't even know what you were doing. You know, like you take a kid now, you don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what happened. Just to roll with, I don't know how many other kids were there. I wasn't the only one,
Mm-hmm.
because there are too many. To make it look good, that's what it was. It's propaganda. But you had to do it, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Was there
You
anything?
either go or don't eat. Case closed.
Okay. Was there anything special that you did there? You
No, was just a celebration for that day. Then, you know,
Right.
like everybody else.
Okay. Um,
Weren't you chosen though to give the flowers or something?
They, who the heck knows? They picked you out and you had to go. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't even know how the groups were put together.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had so many different activities, you know, that you had to go to, and then you had to do homework and all that too. So that was one activity you had to go. So everybody else went, well, we meet there and that's it, and you follow.
Mm-hmm.
You were just like cattle, just go along.
does anything from a long time ago still have a lasting effect on you?
No, that was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
How was life before the war compared to during the
Well,
war?
I had a good life. I went on vacation. I had a good home life. I had good schooling. I had good friends. We lived in a nice neighborhood. And I can't remember that much because my parents had good friends. And it was always family day on Saturday and Sunday. And then Saturday night, I think the parents went to the theater, at the opera, or whatever. I had company. I went out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good because we went to the country. I milked the cows at my aunt's house and herded the sheep and went swimming and all. It was very nice. I talked to my cousin the other day. Yeah.
Great. You said it was very organized. Everybody worked.
Everything
it was...
went by the clock. I mean, and it's still the same way. If the bus comes 7:38, that bus comes at 7:38.
Yeah.
And if it has a connection with the train, they make the connection. That's how it is. Everything
Very
is
efficient.
categorized in like clockwork. And only then can you function when you're organized.
All right, and during the war, how?
Well, during the war, well, it wasn't that easy because, you know, we lived in Berlin, which was headquarters, and they brought down the population and bombed the civilization, just civil. They didn't go to military installations. Forget about it. They went there first. And to bring down the morale, no question about it. I went when the first bomb fell, not far from where the city hall is of that one district. And it was an apartment house, and everybody stood there and oohed and ahed. I think there were just 2 floors collapsed from the top. A big deal. They'd only bombed whole neighborhoods, you know. And then, of course, the alarm sounded wherever you were. I was mostly at home. I was lucky. But if you were someplace, you had to run to a shelter. That's how it was, because of the air raids.
How was life difficult after the war?
After the war, chaotic. First of all, people didn't know where they were. A lot of them didn't have homes to go to because the occupational force moved in and threw everybody out. And then you had to get together. Where do you start? You know, well, we had no, I went to school, I had to change my system. I went to work for Philips. I was very lucky. I was hired on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very fortunate. Then I worked for the Russians. Berlin was 4 sectors. The Americans, we were in the west, in southwest, and then we had the French and the British. No, the British first and the French were in the north. And I think ours was the largest part of Berlin occupied by the Americans. And when I was hired with Philips, which is Philco. And then because I was young and they thought I could do, they transferred me to the east, to the Russian sector. That was an experience to work with the Russians. I was the youngest on the spot. Everything was men and soldiers. But I had very protective bosses, very protective. There was one was the administrative, and the other one was the engineering. And the Russians used to they used to repair the equipment for their, not radar, they had sort of radio communication on the tanks and all that junk. And the Russians were wild. They were absolutely the Russian forces. When they got drunk, you never knew what hit you. When they took the belt out and threw it with the buckle and the belt and the gun right all together. They had a lot of run. The Americans too, they flattened a lot of restaurants. The MP was there day and night to clean them out. Really bad news. The occupational forces were nothing to talk about, I can tell you that much. But that's what it is. That's what war is all about. And the Russians were tough. If somebody plundered or would raid a girl, they raid and line them up. Who was it? And they shot him right there. No questions asked.
Let's see. How was your family affected deeply because of the war?
But my father didn't come home, and I was affected. Life went on. The thing in the European is my mother never had to work with 5 kids because she got 2/3 of my father's income. Okay? It's a different story. The social system is completely different. You were covered medically, you had your income, you could buy your home, and they could live very nicely. And it's still the case. My niece just became a widow. How old is she? Might be 45 or something. Doesn't have to work. She's all over the world because she gets a hospice pension. So there's a different story on that. Wasn't easy to start anew, and my mother cried many of nights because she didn't know where the food comes from. Then we went out and had something. We really didn't have anything. What could you give that a farmer would want to give you? Maybe a small bucket of berries or something. Nothing.
When you left Berlin and you had to flee, where did you go?
We went, my grandfather came from a town which is on the Elbe River. At that time in 45, I saw the exchange, what the Americans did. They gave a lot of prisoners they had over to the Russians. They were never seen again. But because of the agreement, what they did, and they stopped at the Elbe River. Patton wanted to go on. Patton wanted to go all the way in towards Poland. But there was, matter of fact, there's a movie about that. Because of the communication and the agreement the statesmen had, whatever, that's how it was. So we went to a town where they had a high school, and where there was a gymnasium for my brother, because education was always number 1. And that place was not bombed, but they had the V2, which was part of an atom bomb that was lodged in that place because it was secure from the troops or whatever. Nobody, Werner von Braun, he had left already, all his money and his wife, everybody was here. The Krups were here, they were all in America already. Everybody who had the money left, was only the poor people left. And we had to work there because I went to school and we were called upon to work at the airport, so to speak. And that was one of the small strongholds for all the top brass. We didn't see much because everything was undercover. And my girlfriend and I got in because we were top of the class, and we got into work in the office. The rest of them had to work and clean machine guns or, filter oil, what do I know. But we had to work in the fields in the summer. Everybody had to work in the fields. We got picked up at 4 in the morning with a horse and buggy and out to the field. And we had to plug, in that area was common to have sugar beets. And we had to plug the sugar beet beets. They were, God only knows how long, maybe as long as the hall. You lose dimensions because over there everything is smaller than here. It's not like when you go to a farm here. So we had to call, and everybody I think got assigned 3 beds. So you'd have to take out the smallest one and leave the big one hanging. And that was one thing. But we had nothing to eat either. We got no food or anything. We had to take what we had, a dry piece of bread or something like that.
I remember you saying bread, like there were bread lines and how you would trade items and hope to get food. Was that at the
then
same
they took
time?
it away. And they took it, the Russians took it away. Yeah, because we had nothing. Going to the farm and beg, to do that. It was really very demeaning you know, what people did. But everybody was out for himself.
And that was what the Russians did to you guys.
The Russians took it back. You got to the station. I think I only went once or twice. I couldn't do it anymore. But we had nothing. We got some, and then when you pick berries on the side of the road, there is one berry, I forgot the name. You normally don't eat it. Or you pick some, there's a tree that has a particular little, I should look it up, particular little fruit was no bigger than that. And you had to pick that forever to get a bag full. And then they took it and they would use it and make oil with it. And you got maybe a little bit of oil like this. There was nothing there. Nothing to be had.
I remember you saying from a potato, you said you were able to, that's probably something.
And then they had the second harvest of cabbage of some sort, which was, you wouldn't eat it, you give it to feed, but that's what we would do. You see. A potato, you take one potato, make potato soup. You grind it because of the starch in it.
Like that, were there any more special skills you learned from your survival days?
Survival.
I mean, it's survival for the fittest. And everybody, and I'll tell you something else. If you use castor oil and fry with it, we used to make potato pancakes with castor oil. They go to the doctor and said, I need castor oil. So he would give you the prescription for castor oil. So the meaning was the whole building would say, okay, we're all frying pancakes at the same time, because the stink was impossible. But you don't get diarrhea from it. It doesn't hurt you when you pour it. You see, invention, or mother of invention. You had to know how to do things.
Right.
Then the funniest thing was we had sugar sacks. I think 50-pound sugar bag from the farmers years ago. They have raw sugar, you know, whatever. And we came to find out there was a thread in it, which was like, I don't even know what fiber it was. For some, maybe hanf or something, a raw, very coarse fiber. There was a paper fiber and the other one, interwoven to keep it together. So we took the sugar bags apart. You want to hear something? And we found out we can use the other fiber for knitting. So we had nothing. So guess what? We made ourselves bathing suits. Because it was a white fiber, you go in the water with it. The problem was when you were in the water, the stuff would just... So we came out, and we used to wear two-piece bathing suits. Nobody used a one-piece. So we would make a panty, and then the top, and when we came out, everybody had to hold themselves until the stuff dries and shrinks again. Oh, I'm telling you. We used old stockings and made pocketbooks. Here they make rags with it. So, I mean, there were all kinds of things they came up with. Anything that was to be used, you would use.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.